Now we are studying basic concept regarding to the testing in the last lecture. Now what is the role of tester in an organization? Tester is a person in an organization who will do the testing of the software. So what is the basic role of the tester in the organization? To be the most effective as a tester requires extensive programming experience. The tester requires the experience of programming, so basic knowledge of your programming. Because what happens whenever he is doing any type of testing, so how the defects or any error occur in the software at the time of testing, he should know that. So for that purpose, he requires the basic knowledge of testing, basic knowledge of your programming. That is the first goal, or we can say that the first requirement for the tester in an organization. And second one is, goal of tester is to work with the developer to produce high quality software that meets the customer requirement. Okay, so what is the basic customer's requirement that should be fulfilled? So when your developer is developing that software, tester should also know what type of developing is carried out by the developer. So he should work with the developer. So that is second requirement. And third one is, teams of testers and developers are very common in a industry. So they work simultaneously with coordination with one another, tester and your developer. Fourth one, project should have appropriate developer and tester ratio. That is requirement for any organization to develop a best quality software and satisfy the customer. We require the appropriate developer and testers in the organization. Their ratio should be same. Whichever projects are developed by the developer, they should be tested by the tester. So that is a basic requirement in any organization. The ratio is very depending on available resource types of project. So what your types of project you are developing, what your resources are available, based on that, the developer and tester should be available. Tester also needs to work alongside with the requirement engineer. Because what happens in a software development life cycle, you are starting with the requirement analysis phase and you are going for the deployment phase. So what your requirements are given by the customer are correct or not? For that purpose, tester should sit with the requirement engineer also. Means whichever requirements are given by the customer should known to the tester, so that he can say that your customer is satisfied at the time of testing. So at requirement phase also we are carried out the testing. So testing is a continuous process starting with your requirement analysis till your deployment phase. So next one, tester also needs to work with designer to plan for the integration and unit testing. So these are the types of testing: integration and testing and unit testing, that we study in a unit number 2nd. System testing, types of testing. So tester also needs to work with designer. So who is a designer? You are studying the subject software modeling and design, in which we are developing these different types of diagram: activity diagram, class diagram, use case diagram, sequence diagram. So these are the designer who develop this diagram. So when the diagram will be wrong at the developer side, the developing will be wrong. For that purpose, tester should be work with the designer also. We should find whether the design is correct or not. So integration testing means we are combining the different modules in a single module. So that is type of integration. In that there are two types of integration testing: top down and bottom up. We study that. And unit testing, a single code is test. Here we are testing the interface, then your stub is there. Likewise in unit testing, the smallest unit of your system testing we are testing. We'll study in a unit number 2nd. Okay. In addition, test manager will need to cooperate with project manager. So there must be proper communication between your project manager and the tester, because what you are testing, what are requirement of the testing. So project manager should know everyone, what types of test managers are there, what they are working. So there must be proper coordination or cooperation between the test manager and project manager. Project manager will work with all the members, the test manager, developer manager, then requirement manager. So there must be proper communication between the test manager and project manager. Next one. Finally, tester also needs to be cooperate with the software quality assurance staff. Now these are the other members. Software quality assurance, which will check the quality of the software. Means if your tester is developing, testing your application, so this software quality assurance staff means they will be what reviewer, they may what inspectors who will inspecting the software. They will focus on the quality factors. So testers should properly explain what types of defect has been arrived in your software and how they are resolved. So it should be proper communication with the software quality assurance staff also. Okay. So these are the testers role in a organization. So what is the basic function of tester in a organization? Then next point is your origin of defects. How defects occur in your software? Why defects occur in your software? So that is regarding to the origin of a defect. Defect is what? Any bug or the faults which will lead to the failure of the system is nothing but the defect. So defect sources are, first one is a lack of education. If the developer is not having the developing knowledge, he will type any type of typing mistake, or he will not having proper logic, then logical error will be generated. So lack of knowledge or lack of education. Then poor communication. Here in poor communication, if your requirement analyst cannot give proper requirement to the design, so it is poor communication between your requirement analysis and your designer. So again, because of this, the defect will occur in your software. Then next one is a oversight. So what happens in oversight? We are tracking regarding to starting with initial phases till the deployment phases. You cannot properly exchange the information. So that is a oversight. Oversight in tracking the planning. That is planning is not proper. All the requirements are not proper. So because of which the error will be or defect will occur. Then transcription, and last one is a immature process. Transcription means conversion, and last one is a immature process. So any process is executing and it is not completed. Some suppose 95 completed, 5% is remaining. So again, because of which the defect will be occurred. So these are the some sources of defect. Okay, defect sources that will impact in a software modules or software artifact. So what will occur because of this defect? Errors will occur in a software, fault will be occurs, and because of which it will lead to the failure. So that will be impact on the organization. Impact on the software will lead to the impact on the organization. And what will happen because of this? Impact from the user view. We can get the customer will get the poor quality software and user will be dissatisfied. He will not satisfied, 100% satisfied. So this is what how the defect origin, how it is converted, how it will give to the affect the software, and last one is how the user or the customer or end user will be affected because of this defect. Okay, that is the origin of defect. Then defect classes. So we can say defect severe, very severe, continuous failure. So some classes are there regarding to the defect based on their occurrence. So defect classes, defect repository, and test design. Test design. Defect can be classified in many ways. Defect can be classified in many ways. So it is important for an organization to adapt a single classification scheme and apply it to all the projects. So how to identify the defect? Means what are the different types of defect? Some of what happens, some typing method will be there, or some other types of error may occur. So we should classify what defect should be recovered and which should not be. That will not affect the organization. That cannot be not essential. So that type of defect cannot be removed, but which will cause loss to the organization or to that customer. That defect should be covered. Based on that classification of required, classification is required. No matter which classification scheme the organization will select, some defect will fit into more than one class or category. Defect types and frequency of occurrence should be used to guide test planning and test design. During test planning and test design. So during the planning is what type of defects are occurring, how to remove that, that we have to specify which defects should be removed, which should be not removed. So based on that, we have to specify. So execution-based testing strategy should be selected based of its strongest possibility of detecting particular types of defects. So defects are assigned in the four main classes. So requirement or specification defect. Second one is your design defect, and third coding defect or in the code defect. And last one is a testing defect. So in these four classes, the defects are assigned. Defects assigned in a four main classes. So requirement not properly given by the customers. Then requirements are not properly taken by the requirement analyst. Likewise, other defects in your project. Same for your design also. Then coding also. We can say the typing mistake, misconception, misunderstanding regarding to the programming knowledge will lead to a defect. And testing defect. Suppose you have to go for the unit testing, you carry out the manual, your automated testing with the software. So this happens in the testing defects also. What application, what type of testing should be carried out for the each module, software, or the system. So because of which the defect will arise. So these are the four main classes of defect. So requirement and specification defect class. So what happens in this requirement? I will explain you requirement and or specification defect class. So beginning of software life cycle is a critical for ensure high quality. So in software engineering, you study software development life cycle, analysis, design, coding, testing, implementation. So at the beginning of this software life cycle, we should ensure that we are providing a good quality software to the end user. Defect injected in the early phases can persist and be difficult to remove in a later phases. So you are finished. We are learned waterfall model. So what happens in waterfall model? All the requirements are known first. After completion of first phase, we are going for the second phase. After completion of second phase, we are going for the third phase. Now, if you want to make the changes in the first phase, again you should go for the beginning. So this is what quite costly that you are already studying a waterfall model. So what happens in this also, if the defect arises at the starting only, that defect will be continuously go in a design phase, then from design phase it will go to the development phase and then testing. So likewise what, it will be more costly. So defect injected in the early phases can persist and be very difficult to remove in a later phases. Many requirement documents are written using the natural language representation. So which are requirements? Suppose you are a customer, I am a developer, means I am a organization member. So I will ask the customers, so what are your requirements? So what type of software you should require? What are the difficulties for existing software? What it should be user friendly? So these are some requirements of the customer. So many times what happens, the organization representative is write in a natural language representation. Occurrence of ambiguous, contradictory, unclear, redundant, and imprecise requirements. So what happens? Your requirement is ambiguous. They are not clear. They are contradictory, redundant. So because of this, what happens? The defect is arising in your application. So they will say that in the specification, proper specification are not given by the customer to the developer. And in writing also, if you writing in natural language, again he will make some mistake. So this will lead to the defect in your application or defect in your requirement. Specifications are also developed using natural language representation. Then some defects, functional description defects. Overall description of what the product does and how it should behave is incorrect, ambiguous, and incomplete. So requirement sometimes may be incomplete also. It may ambiguous to the writer or the analyst or the requirement analyst cannot properly write down the functional description. That will lead to the functional defect in our application. Then feature defects due to the feature description that are missing, incorrect, incomplete, or superfluous. It consists of error will or defect will arise. Features of that system are not properly specified. Then feature interaction defects due to an incorrect description of how the feature should interact. Suppose you are having 5 modules in your software. So how that 5 modules should interact with one another is not properly specified. So at the time of interfacing, it will lead to the defect. That interface description defects occur in the description how the target software is to interface with external software, hardware, and user. Okay, that will lead to the external that will lead to the interface description defects. So these are the defects types in a requirement class. Okay, functional description defect, feature description defect, feature interaction defect, interface description defect. And second one is your second class is your design defect class. Design defect class. Now in a design class, this what happens here. We are going for the design based on your requirement. Occur when system components, interaction between system components, interaction between components and outside software, hardware, or users are incorrectly designed. Based on the requirement, the designer will design. If the requirements are not proper, and there is a defect in a design. In design also, we are designing. This what happens. Suppose you have gone for the class diagram. It consists of 4 classes. For hospital management, patient is a class, doctor is a class, then your pharmacist is a class. Now, how this interaction is not properly specified? Who should interact with whom? So that will lead to the defect. Then defect is the defect in the design of algorithms, controls, logic, data elements, module, interface, description, and external software, hardware, user interface description. So in the algorithms is not properly specified at the time of development. Best at the time of design will lead to the defect in a developing also. So you should properly specify the algorithm, controls, and logics are not properly specified. Then it will lead to the defect in a design. So algorithmics and processing defects occurs when the processing steps in the algorithm as described by the pseudocodes are incorrect. So same I explained this what algorithm is not properly specified in your design, which type of algorithm you are using. And second one, control, logic, and sequence defect. So you are studying sequence diagram, software modeling. So if you are not properly specifying the sequence of operations starting with the start phase till your end phase, what are the activities performed in a sequence diagram, it will lead to the defect. Proper sequence should be specified, which will occur in your code. Then data defect associated with incorrect design of data structure. So you know data structure is not properly specified, it will lead to the defect. Module interface description defects derived from using incorrect number of parameters or incorrect ordering of parameters. So that will lead to the module interface description defect. Okay. These are regarding to parameters, incorrect parameters. Then functional description defects, which will include incorrect, missing, or unclear design elements. Functional description defects will occur because of unclear design elements. Now what happens? Suppose in use case diagram, we are having some stereotypes, include, extend, then some elements, use case, actor, stabilization, aggregation. If they are not properly specified, what the actor will do. Suppose actor is your patient or actor is your doctor. They are not properly specified in a design. What function should doctor do? What function the patient should do? What function the nurse should do? They are not properly specified at the design in a use case diagram. That will lead to the defect. An external interface description defect is derived from incorrect design description for external software system, database, and hardware device. Then next one is your coding defect. So coding defects, now the developer or actually a programmer who is programming that application or the software. So what are the kinds of defects that will occur in a coding defect? So derived from errors in implementing the code. So errors in the implementation of code closely related to design defect classes, especially if pseudocode has been used for detailed design. So whichever pseudocode has been developed, specified by the design class or designer, will be implemented wrongly, come from failures to understand programming language construct and miscommunication with the design. This is again one. Difficulty to classify a defect as a design or as a coding defect. Okay. So whichever defects occur in your design will automatically go into the coding defects. Okay. So coding defects in that initialization defects, then your typographical defects, syntax error, data flow defects, control logic and sequence defects. So control logic sequence defects. So I explained you. Include incorrect expression of case statement, incorrect iteration of loops and missing part. Then typing defects or typographical defects will generally syntax error. Initialization defects occur when initialization statements are omitted or incorrect. So whatever mistake you are doing at the programming language or program typing, same are the coding defects. Data flow defects due to incorrect flow of data. Data defects by incorrect implementation of data structure. Instead, suppose you are going for username, you are writing it for integer value. So this is what a coding defect or incorrect data structure. And module interface defects, code documentation defects, external hardware and software interface defects. So in module interface defect derived from using incorrect number of parameters or an incorrect ordering of parameters. Code document defects, when the code document does not reflect what the program actually does. So you are doing the project report. So if your project report starting means you cannot explain how the flow of your project is in your document, means in your project report. There is no use of that application. So code document defects occur because of this external hardware and software